All right, what's up? It's the OCPD coach. I'm back again for part two because I rambled for a whole hour just telling my story because I think all of that stuff was crucial and I still left out lots of it. But now let's talk about game development because I think that's the most important thing. I've told you all my story. I'm a video game developer on the side. I'm a software engineer full time and I do life coaching. Not just people who have OCPD, but people who have traits that they don't know how to manage. I help them work through those issues. So all of this stuff pretty much connects to me because a lot of my clients are in tech and me doing gaming, a lot of my projects are impacted by my mental health. So let's just get into it. Game development has impacted my life in the following ways. Nope, that's not what I meant to say. My mental health has impacted my game development in the following ways. I have ADHD and OCPD. My ADHD makes it really hard for me to focus on staying focused. We're gonna let that fly. I know, but we will let that fly. What I mean by that is this. I have shiny toy syndrome. Whatever you call it for a ball. I mean, the ball with the dog or enough for a squirrel. You see something and you're like, oh wait, I like that better. So let me go to that instead. And in game development, that is horrible because people with OCPD, people with ADHD, they actually have issues when tasks get lengthy, when they get repetitive, or when they get boring. Game development gets like that. When you don't have that initial rush come in from game development, it can quickly, when you're fixing bugs, become lengthy, become boring, and when you're just testing stuff out, become repetitive. So oftentimes I could be working on a game, and when I start losing that passion or that novelty for the game, it's not fresh anymore. A new idea seems much more interesting. It always seems more interesting. So what I would do in the past is I would jump. I would say, hey, skip this, I'm jumping. And I just cancel it. I want to write something down too because I want to mention something. And I guess I can talk about it because it's perfect transition. So that's one of my ADHD traits is basically having a hard time staying focused after all of that adrenaline and excitement has worn off. Something this leads me to do is what I call icing. And I just came up with this term yesterday, so there probably is an official term somewhere. But for me, icing, and this is something that is more on the OCPD side, icing is when you disconnect from something completely. And they say all or nothing, but I mean completely disconnect, where any music that I was listening to that helped me, that I would work on, that I would listen to while I was working, can't listen to that. Any YouTubers that I would watch while I was working on the project, can't listen to them. Any artwork, any video games, anything that reminds me of the project, I want nothing to do with it at all. The community that might have been interested, or people who might have been interested that I talked to about the project, no communication. They say excommunicate. I don't even know that's actually proper. I'm tired, y'all. But no communication whatsoever. So this icing, that's what I call icing. And I say this is my OCPD because, as I mentioned with the all or nothing, I'm either all in or I'm all out. And I also want things to be perfect. People who want things to be perfect, you also want yourself to be perceived as somebody with high standards, high qualities, and you want to be seen perfect, quote unquote. Well, when I don't finish projects, there's nothing I don't have anything but embarrassment and guilt. That's it. I didn't finish it. Why would you want to talk to me? I'm a failure. I'm a quitter. These are some of the things that you can tell yourself. That's some of the things I've told myself subconsciously, not even knowing I was using those words. But sometimes, even if you're not using the words, when you're associating the traits that are associated with those words to yourself, you're calling yourself those words. You don't see things through. You always get ideas and you never finish them. You don't stick with things for long enough. Your ideas must suck because every time you have an idea, you always give up on it. So if you get a new idea, what's to say that this idea doesn't suck too and you're just not excited right now? This stuff is real. People don't, this is why it's so important, man. Mental health is something to be taken seriously. I don't like when people use it as an excuse to treat people wrong. I think if you know you have mental health enough to the point where you think that you can justify treating people wrong because of it, and you're not doing the steps to get it taken care of, then I don't think that you should bring up the mental health at all in that capacity. I think you should just continue working on yourself and say, right now, I need to do better. Because mental health, we keep all these stigmas that just keep getting passed around to each other about the mental illness itself. A lot of people think that having OCPD makes you a bad person. A lot of people say that they've associated narcissism with it. And I tend to think that it's more about the individuals who have it, who are having a hard time either getting help or basically just not. I'm trying to think of how you could say, because you still want to be delicate, but I definitely think that the people who use it as a crutch or as a reason to do people wrong and say wrong things to people, I think they mess it up for people who probably don't have those tendencies. I don't even know. I want to start talking more direct, because I tend to talk in this kind of one and no. And I know what I'm trying to say. You don't have to treat people bad just because you have mental illness. If you have mental illness, if you have a mental illness and you know you have a mental illness, do everything you can to get the mental health issue addressed. If you think there's nothing else you can do, but you know you have a mental health illness, that still does not give you a right to treat people poorly. I think a lot of the issues with OCPD come down to misunderstandings. And I'll say this because I have it, and I think my wife has it too, and I think I have a family history of having it. And I've dealt with a lot of people who have it, even with just clients, I've dealt with people who have it. And a lot of times it comes down to us having stuff in our heads that we have a hard time clearly communicating because we think that other people are also in our head. And I'll give you an example. If I go to church tomorrow, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. so I can make sure I'm there on time for 7 a.m. Now, in my head, I'm going to be thinking that every single other person in the church is doing the same. So if people come to church and they don't come in at the same time I come in, or if they're at a meeting late, then in my head, I can get a narrative where I'm thinking, man, you knew you should have been here early. You knew this. You knew you should have been up at 5. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do it? I did it. You could have done it too. And instead, I have to think, hey, well, I have OCPD, which makes me a lot more focused on abiding by rules that are set because I'm highly disciplined, or I like efficiency. I care about this more than other people care about this aspect of life. So if I start looking at everybody else and understanding that they might not have that as a priority and they're not thinking like me, it allows me to have grace. And it allows me to look at them where it's like, that's them. I mean, I can't control them, so that's them. The reason this is important is because in relationships, a lot of times, you don't think to have that thought if you don't know you have OCPD and you don't know the different traits and you haven't talked to somebody who also has it. You don't really even know that these are things that you're thinking that other people are not thinking. You'll be surprised. The clients that I've worked with who have come to me and talked about relationship issues after coaching or even during the coaching will oftentimes say, since I've been doing this, my relationship has improved. I don't think it's a coincidence because it's happened with me too. I think once you know that you have OCPD and you start looking at your head because of the type of disorder it is, we don't think there's something wrong. We don't think it's something going on with us. We think it's everybody else. But once you start looking at it in your head, you start saying, man, all of this stuff is not as big of a deal as I'm making it. Nobody else can tell you this though. It can't be, you can't have somebody say that who doesn't have OCPD, and you can barely even have that person say it. It has to come from you. It has to come from you understanding, hey, my brain ticks like this person's brain, and this is how they think about stuff. So, man, now that I can look at it from outside of my body, that does seem a little wild. That does seem crazy that I'm expecting my 3-year-old to always have a pair of socks every single morning. I want him to take the pair of socks that he goes to sleep with on and put them on the counter so that every night he has a pair of socks. And that's a little lunatic for me to think that my 3-year-old son would do it. But that's an expectation that's in my head. Now, the good thing about it is, even though it's an expectation in my head, I know that it's lunatic. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us just don't get to the point where we even know that that is a little too much. That's excessive. People are going to be late. People are going to mess up. Long story short, getting back to where I was though, talking about the mental health disorders and how it all impacts me. All this was related to icing, and icing is a big one. That's something where if I'm working on that project, I want nothing else to do with it. When I was working on pro wrestling games, anytime I would burn out and need a break or pivot, I wouldn't be able to watch wrestling. I couldn't listen to any rock music or anything that reminded me of wrestling. On YouTube, I would do not recommend on all the YouTubers who know about the game or have seen it. It was tough, man. That was really tough. That was something where you start to feel like everything that you do in life has an expiration point, which is basically just whenever you stop caring about it. And that's what it was. As soon as I stopped caring about this game and I stopped working on this game, all the relationships I built, all the work I've done does not matter because it's going to trash. So, yeah, that's something. Let's get back to the different symptoms, though. So I've talked about ADHD, which is losing focus, which I'm clearly doing here. I've talked about icing, and icing is when you basically go MIA. Another one I want to talk about is imposter syndrome, which ties back to the OCPD. And this is having no confidence in your project that it will be successful, or that it's worth anything. That's happened many times with my games. My game, Scrap City, that I released in 2018, had 4.5 average rating from 20,000 people. Yet, I took that game down and then tried to make it better, and then took that game down because I was like, nah, this is sucking. And I worked the first game I worked years on it. The second game I worked over a year, and I built AWS. I just did too much. I tried to make it too customizable. For a mobile game, you don't need all of that. So I just thought it looked janky. It felt janky. And I scrapped the whole project. And basically, I saw it one time, never look back at doing the Scrap City ever again or anything like that for the city. The next one, not setting attainable goals. This is something that I still have to reel it back in. Because when you are first learning game development, you learn about plugins. This is where they trap you. This is where they trick you. Because you see a plugin and it says first person or third person character controller. And you just see the character walking around. You might see they might have an advancement where they get in the car, or and you start thinking, oh crap, I can make Grand Theft Auto. You start thinking, I can make Grand Theft Auto in a week. They got all the stuff I need. And that was me. I was confident. I was really confident. I said, I'm making a Grand Theft Auto clone right after this fighting game. I'd already started. Had too many things boiling, but I hadn't thought about how massive of an undertaking building a block is. Building a single house. Think about GTA, Grand Theft Auto, for instance. That's a game where it's easily got to be over 100,000 assets. I would easily say that, because you got to factor in audio, textures, 3D props like benches, light poles, all the different types of cars, all the different types of houses, all the different types of buildings, interiors, airplanes, tanks, boats, water, beaches, forests, mountains, everything you can have. Food, you go and get your food. Every single thing, clothes, it's not even including clothes, man. Every single thing that's in GTA, when you're looking at it from an unexperienced brain or a hyper, what's a good word? A brain basically where you think you can do it all. That's what it is. You think you can do it all. I think you set yourself up for failure. So I took my one person, me, Uno, and said, I'm going to develop a game that took over, I don't know how many developers, but I'm sure it's thousands of developers, and multiple years, probably 5 years minimum, plus millions of dollars in budget. And I'm just going to make it in, I didn't say your mom's basement, I wasn't living in my mom's basement. I moved into an apartment at the time, but I was going to make it in my 1-bedroom apartment. by myself with no additional funding, with no licensing, with no, I didn't even know Substance Painter at the time was a thing. So I don't even know how I was planning on doing that. I guess just assets. I was just gonna buy a bunch of assets, and the only thing I could do was use Google SketchUp. And I was using Google SketchUp to model buildings, not knowing how Google SketchUp is not meant for that. Not knowing how poor my stuff looked. It looked really, really tacky. I had no idea. So my goal that I was setting was unattainable. And that project was doomed from the start. So that's something that kind of goes with the ADHD as well. I can't remember the exact symptom, but basically it's time blindness is the one I think that's biggest, because we underestimate or overestimate how long something's going to actually take. I would say, hey, I could build GTA in 6 months, and I might say less than that, but in reality, it would take a lot longer for a GTA, a lot, for a quality one. And that leads to the next part, which is burnout. So if you are working on projects and it's taking you forever, you are working on something for way too long, you put too much energy in, too many 2 a.m. nights, and you're not really seeing any progress or any momentum, and you're not seeing that attainable goal that you had set, you will burn out. That's simply put. You're gonna burn out. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're gonna burn out. So that is something that the burnout is actually an OCPD thing, because we work way through, workaholism. But that also ties back to ADHD, because burnout for ADHD is when a project, what did I say about it, gets lengthy, boring, repetitive. That happens so much in gaming that it could easily and more quickly lead to you burning out once you have those different traits. Another one, this is an OCPD thing, is delegation issues. If you have a hard time with having people on board helping you and telling them what they need to do to get the project, or you don't have a clear vision, because that was one of my biggest delegation issues. My goals would be undefined, unclear, and unfair. As I mentioned, GTA in 6 months. So I would have an issue with delegating anybody that came in, because I wouldn't know what I wanted from them. I would have a hard time. I say, yeah, make this. Oh, wait, no. Can you make this? Oh, wait, no. Can you make this? Yeah. And I'm not perfect. I say this all the time. I work with people who have OCPD, and I grow so much me working with them, because I'm able to learn different areas that I need to grow in as well, even more, put more energy in it. And delegating is still something I continue to work on trying to improve. And then the other thing is, if somebody does something, I go in and do it over or do it myself. So what's the point of delegating if I was just gonna do it myself? Why would I hire somebody or pay somebody who I don't trust to do the vision, or who can't bring it to life? And this is where I was talking earlier about us thinking everybody's in our head. We have such a hard time getting stuff out of our head. Such a hard time getting it out of our head onto paper in a way where it is exactly what we want, where we can say, hey, this is exactly what I want, and they can do it. I've had more luck doing this when it's somebody who knows more about it, or has a better eye for something than me, because they can make it better. If you can make it better than I thought, cool. If you make it exactly, the unclear image I had, but you make it vaguely close, and it might just be a little off, then I think I need to go in and fix it. And then once I do that so many times, hey, I'm on a roll, bye. And that's what happens. That tends to happen more than often. So delegation issues also lead to burnout, because you just start taking on way too much stuff. So the game I'm working on right now, I got really close to doing this, but I needed a mall for my game. And myself and the developer were having such a hard, not the developer, the person I was working with to try to get the 3D art done. We were having a hard time figuring out what it needed. And I was just getting to the point where he was about to start work. I paid him and everything, but I just could not figure out what the rest of it was gonna look like. I'm like, man, but it needs to have an entrance for this, and We need to have all these different stores, and I just kept having a hard time. So I got to the point I said, I need to just start making it. I need to just start building it and see what happens. Long story short, I started building it. And as I kept building it, I just messaged him, said, hey man, don't worry about it. Keep the money I sent. I've got it. Because I can't communicate it, but I finally got the feel of what I wanted. Like I'm able to build it even though I couldn't see it. So that's something I still continue to try to improve my delegation skills. And this is something I'm aware of now, so I apologize even to him. I said, look, working with me, I'm apologizing up front because now I know how my brain operates. And I'm still working on trying to make sure I'm clear with whatever I need. But sometimes I don't know how to put it into words. Or sometimes a new idea hits me and I have to think, well, does this idea make more sense than that? So what I started doing with this was I started saying, hey, no, don't stop what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And after that, we'll try the next thing. And that has worked. I never used to do that before. Normally I would say, no, this is the most urgent one, so drop that and do this. But this time I was like, no. If you were working on that, just get that to the point where you can say it's finished, then send it to me, and then I'll give you the next thing. So I got that. And then I've got another guy who is doing some other smaller 3D models for me. His models are not perfect. They are, I actually made some models myself because the communication, I hadn't heard from him for a while, or when he would make the models, they just wouldn't be up to par. So instead of me having real bad delegation issues with him, I told him, I said, hey, you gotta let me know if you start working on something so I can know, because I haven't known what you were working on, not being communicated with, I haven't known. And I started doing some of the assets because I couldn't wait anymore. So I did a couple of the 3D models, and then what I did was I said, okay, how about this? Instead of me giving him the highly crucial assets, I give him the assets where these are the nice to haves. And when I get them, and that's work. So I've started giving him smaller tasks, like there was a phone, a cash register, something else, an old game console. I just sent them those because now it's taking them days and days to get back to me, but at least now I'm not pressed. I'm like, I gotta get it done. I'm just doing myself. And I'm not supporting, like, hey, I don't need your services. I'm still trying to do it where I can work with them and stretch that patience, but not make it where this person is potentially blocking the project. So y'all can probably see by my eyes, man, I've been up to 2 a.m. for the past 2 weeks. And yes, this can burn you out. However, this is a project where I took 2 weeks off work and I needed to get the project to a point where I can be able to release it in 6 months. So I have a different goal with this. I have attainable, actionable steps. I'm making progress. And one of the things I've also been doing with this is documenting my progress. So I never used to do this before. I barely even worked with Git in a lot of my old projects outside of Markout. But this, I'm working in GitHub. I'm pushing changes up every single day. And I'm documenting it every night. I record a video. I walk through the environment. I test out all the features that I've added, and I save it as a video and upload it to Git as well. What that does is when I'm having days where I'm not feeling it, I can go and look and say, hey, this is what it looked like 3 weeks ago. That's what it looks like now. So you just keep going and you're getting closer to the vision that you have. Also, I did a lot of vision, printing off pictures this time. I never used to do that. Printing off pictures of what I have in mind, inspirational pictures. I got Crazy Taxi arcade machine and the character up. I found the old GTA 3 poster. Actually, how much is that worth? I'm just curious now. Because eBay, you never know. Whoa. Oh, wait. No, I don't know. Some places are saying it's worth 80 bucks. Some places are, all right, my fault. I got distracted. All right, so yeah, that's delegation. The next thing is frugality. Now this is an OCPD thing as well. Frugality is where you don't really want to spend money on stuff. And this also is related to delegation. You start to say, hey, this is somebody who could do it for cheaper, so I'll go with this person. Well, now you went with that person, you didn't like their work. So now you're spending that money anyways because you're using your time. And there was I gotta print it off, but there's a pyramid, and it is, I think it's time, money, effort, and you have to sacrifice. If it's not effort, it's quality. I can't remember, but you have to sacrifice on one if you want to hit two of them. So you can't hit two at the same time. I mean, you can only hit two at the same time, basically, and you still would only be getting like 50% of those. And it's basically made to say, okay, for this thing, where are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to say I spent more time on it, but I got the desired quality? Are you willing to say I spent more money, but I got the desired quality and it shortened my time? But I have to find it. It's not the golden triangle, is it? What is that? I have to find it though, but I have to make a video in the future just kind of talking about it because I think it's helpful. So yeah, frugality. You have to find where you're willing to spend money on your projects. It's another thing. Do you have a budget? I've never gone into game projects with a budget. No projects have I ever gone in with a budget, which is one of the dumbest mistakes I can make, because then it's, hey, how much is this? And everything in my head is, that's too much, because I didn't plan for any money. For this game I'm working on, I allotted myself $10,000. Of that $10,000, this chair was about $2,000. So I kind of count this chair, but at the same time, I needed this chair because my back has been bothering me really bad. And now my back has not been bothering me. So, hey, get you a Herman Miller chair. This thing actually works. It's a Herman Miller gaming chair. But yeah, I probably still have about 7,000 left. So in that 7,000, I'm going to include a marketing. I still don't have art for my game as far as 2D art. I'm still getting the soundtrack made. I paid for most, I think I have about 5 songs, custom songs for the soundtrack. But there's still other stuff that you want to do. So always make sure that you have some budget where you can say, okay, for this project, I have this much left. So instead of me saying I need to get me an artist for $50, now I can say I have $1,000 for an artist, so I can get somebody who's really quality and get me some really quality art made for these areas. It doesn't have to be for the whole game, but for my Steam page, for my thumbnail, so I can have thumbnail art to send YouTubers and streamers, gotta get the best. For the logo, gotta get the best. So yeah, all these areas, just keep all these things in mind. Like, make you a budget so you don't have to deal with the frugality. And then one more thing I put on here is never good enough to release. OCPD all the way through. With OCPD, I like to look at it as, in my head, hyper efficiency for the most part. That's how it's always been for me. When people say perfectionism, I still look at that as hyper efficiency. Just do it one time, you never have to do it again. Do it at the highest level and you will get the maximum results from it. If you say, when I say never good enough to release, I'm talking about you spending years developing something, and then when it's time for you to release it, you literally say, man, it's not good enough. I have to push the date. You do it again. Man, still not good enough. I have to push the date. A lot of times we call this scope creep. And this is exactly what it sounds. The scope of the project just keeps increasing. They call it creep because it's not like scope blow up where you have your little game and then it's like, okay, I'm making a game where it's Temple Run. Now it's GTA. It's typically not like that. How it might go for you is, okay, it's Temple Run, but instead of you running, which you've had the whole game planned to be running, you're a drone flying in a helicopter. I mean, you're a drone flying like running away from a helicopter. So now you have to model a drone, you have to model a helicopter. They're like, okay, cool, that's good, but what if we made it where you could do turbo speed on the drone? So now it goes up a little more. And it's like, wait, but if you do turbo speed, then we need something where it makes you cool back down. That's more. And now the helicopter needs to get faster because it needs to be able to catch up with you so it's still a threat. That's another one. Now we have to test. Oh crap, that broke this system because all of the obstacles were all of the obstacles. I'm saying that word, I'm so tired. I think I'm saying that word right. There's no other way to say obstacles. It sounds weird because I don't think I've ever said that word out loud. But all of the obstacles were designed for somebody that's running because you had pits to jump over, you had blocks to move out the way. So now you're like, oh man, now we need to remake the model where all of the dangers and hazards can be relevant for a drone. So now you have to make towers in the game, and now you have to. So your scope for the game is just doing this, and then you get to the point where like, man, but now the art doesn't look good anymore because it's not a runner. So we can't have a road for the art for the menu. Now we have to have a bunch of different landing pads, as if you were a drone trying to find where to go. And oh man, skins are really big. We made different clothes for the character, but now we don't have multiple skins for the drones. So we need to have 10 skins. We got 10 skins for the drone now. And now you're like, man, but people don't just want cosmetics. Maybe they want something that makes the drone bigger or smaller so it can fit through gaps. And it just keeps going. It keeps going. And that is where I think point number, I did stand focused, then I did icing. Come here, Jay. Sorry, y'all, my dog's having a nightmare. But yeah, whatever that point was, the number it was might have been 5, but it was not setting attainable goals. That is, all of that comes back to never good enough to release. Because if you don't have those goals set where you could actually hit them, then you will just keep striving. You just keep going and going and going, and then you eventually burn out. But all of these things, so it might have been a lot more. Obviously, I couldn't remember every single thing, but these are ways that my mental health. I'm speaking a little bit, sorry. These are ways that my mental health has impacted me. My mental health traits. Now, these are just the negatives, really, but a lot of the positives. Me being able to release mark out, me being able to maneuver around companies and work and do different games. Much of that success has been due to my mental health as well. Because my ADHD allows me to do what is called hyperfocus, which a lot of people, it's a bad thing. Like me stand up 2 o'clock in the morning every night, it's not a good thing to do. However, anybody who has done game development knows that when you get those spurts, those long windows of time, you have to take advantage. Because if ideas are flowing, if you have bugs, you know how to fix the bug. You don't have to go back and code and recall and do all this context switching. Especially as a father and married man who leads a group in church, does Toastmasters throughout the week, has a full-time job, has clients to meet with. On top of anything else, I do son's karate, all this stuff with my wife. Anytime I have to take advantage of it, which is why YouTube, that's why I also don't post a lot on YouTube, because typically I have to set up my camera and come up with content. I don't like to ramble. However, the mic on the camera was dead. So I pulled out my phone and I said, hey, let me get a video up, because at least if we do have people on here who might have struggles, maybe this can help them out. But yeah, the hyperfocus helps me. I can actually knock stuff out. If I'm highly interested in something, I can figure problems out a lot easier. My problem solving ability, I don't think it would be what it is without my ADHD, because I can literally, me like trying to multitask. I mean, me trying to consider options for why something is broken. The ADHD is so random at times that random ideas pop up, or coming up with ways to address issues in creative ways. ADHD comes up with stuff where it's like, oh, that's out the box. Didn't think of that. So I love my ADHD for that. I mean, it is extremely helpful. My OCPD, just one of the traits that I wrote down for my OCPD, but my level of detail and my high expectations, I've learned that I tend to try to do stuff at 125% or 118% or something over 100%, which is not attainable. But my 120% to a lot of people is 90 or 100%. So now that I know that, and I know that about myself, I know I have ADHD, I know I have OCPD, when I do stuff, I tend to say, that's probably good enough. If I'm to the point where I'm looking at it and it's not really like, no, it's broken, it's probably good enough. And it's been helping me out, because now when I do my attention to detail, I can focus on things that really stand out negatively instead of having to make everything perfect. For instance, my 3D models, I can spend a lot of time getting every single, putting scratches and all that. I kept it simple. I model out the base geometry. I made some bootleg companies, and throw some basic materials on it in Substance Painter, and then I use a spray brush and just throw some roughness on it, either shiny or not shiny, and I'm call it a day and move on. Oh, me, I would have been spending days, like multiple days on a single asset, which is unrealistic. I never would have modeled my mall. Had I not switched up my mindset, I never would have been able to model my mall, all the games that I have inside of, the project. Never would have been able to do those either. So just make sure, if you do have OCPD or you do have this strong attention to detail where you just want things to be perfect, try not to make it perfect. I don't, me working one-on-one with people is a lot easier because we could talk on specific situations. When it's just me talking, I have to talk about myself a lot because that's the only person I can use. Yeah, I could talk about clients actually. I have another thing. So one more complication that I'll put up to the top. Me having ADHD balances it out. But I think if I just had OCPD, I would have a really, really hard time getting projects started, because with OCPD, as I mentioned, all or nothing. So if I don't have everything, if I don't have all the models, if I don't have all of this stuff, then I would tend to not actually make any progress. I wouldn't try to get the project done because I would say I don't have everything, so what's the point? My ADHD, though, it makes me impulsive and it makes me, as I mentioned, hyper-focused. So I've been able to just dive into stuff and say, hey, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, whatever. And that makes it easier for me to do game development. But I do know when I was first starting, it was really challenging for me to figure out where to start. I was planning. I'm like, what tools do I use? Is it Unreal or Unity or what's up, a CryEngine? Oh man, I need new technology and all these different things. And then I got to the point where I'm like, hey, I'm able to just jump into a project. This game, it started off as a different game, completely different game. It started off as a DoorDash simulator in my head. And as I was planning, I started thinking, wait, no, actually it could be a simulator like this. And I shifted and I started working and doing research, and I would stand up and get all these notes. And then I talked to my wife and I said, I think I got an idea to take this game that I'm working on now, save it for the future because it's such a large scope, and instead do this game where I can get started on it faster. And it took me a couple hours to really confirm I was gonna do it. And then I did it, and I haven't turned back. It was the best decision I made because this game has much more of a vision. It allows me to tie in everything I love and still listen to all the music I want to listen to and watch all the videos, and everything is still tied back to this project. I'm even able to talk about God in this project, which is the craziest thing, because I swear I told my wife when I first got the idea, I'm like, it's as if God pulled me back into this and he's telling me to do this project, because I've never felt strongly in a project success and purpose like I did with this. And I had no idea. I kept saying, it's God. He pulled me back because I just announced that I was done. And I was like, it's God pulling me back. And it was about a week and a half ago during my vacation. It hit me. I was like, this is how it ties back to God. Because I couldn't see. I'm like, God, how does this tie back to you? I'm making this game, but what does it do? How does it help? You know, that's what I always say. How does it help? And I finally figured it out. So I can't wait until I release the game and I release some updates. But yeah, it's something where if you can manage your mental health disorders, you can really, really help yourself out. All right, so that's some of the things that I love about the disorders. Now I wanted to talk about a couple of fixes, just specifically. I've talked about a couple of them, but some of the issues that I dealt with, had I known this way back when, these would have helped. Matter of fact, since YouTube Shorts will be picking this video up, this is a good thing to probably trim up for that. So you're interested in game development, but you're having the following issues. These are some of the things that I did to help me out with those issues. Here's what I have to do now. Now I try to make a little clip or something so it can know the algorithm will know where to chop it. Okay, so first thing is not knowing how to actually plan for your project. What I like to do is plan it in chunks. So as a certified product owner, we talked about doing milestones. which was something, again, when I started, didn't know about. But if you can milestone out your project, if you have that clear enough vision of what the end goal will be, then you can create milestones that you can focus on hitting instead of focusing on finishing the whole game. This will help you in areas such as burnout. So if you have a clear enough vision for the milestone, you can have that dopamine hit when you get to the milestone. You can have some type of reward. Another thing with it is knowing what tools to use to plan. A lot of people use different tools. I've tried Trello, and Trello was a lot of fun. I've tried TFS, too boring. What I use now is Jira. I know a lot of people use Notion. I think Notion is also a great option, but I use Jira because I use Jira day to day at work. So it doesn't feel like a new technology that I have to use and have all these different access points. I use Jira and I'm able to actually manage my project a lot easier because I know what's coming up. I can use sprints and put all of the work that I'm working on for the next 2 weeks into a sprint. And then also I can create sprints for the future, and I have a backlog where I put all the work that I'm not doing right now into that. So that helps me when I'm having that ADHD urge to jump to another part of the project, even though I haven't finished what I need to do. Another thing, I keep scratching my nose because I think I just started trimming my facial hair a couple minutes ago, but it's like my nose is itching for some reason. So I know people make comments about people scratching their nose, and that's the only reason why, it's because my nose is actually itching right now. I'm drug-free, alcohol-free, so save those comments. So another thing that has helped me out with my game development woes is actually having an attainable goal. Not trying to be GTA, not trying to be Madden, not trying to be any of these Gears of War, whatever the other big games. Fortnite, even though Fortnite was made in Epic's Unreal Engine and it was made by the Epic team, does not mean that you need to go and create Fortnite or Fort Day, whatever you want to call it. You don't. What I like to do instead is focus on that smaller project where you can build it and then make it scalable. And this goes back, I think, to a lot of the agile methodologies, which they were really taught to me working at these bigger companies. But we would iterate like crazy. We would never build a website and say, hey, it's done. There it is, take it. We would work on a shell of a website. We would prototype the website. We would have people test the website. We would put basic features in. So your MVP, your minimum viable product, we would put that in there and put that out. Just bare bones. And as people started using it, we would start adding more features. And then that train just continued to the point where the product became something that was successful or something that was valuable, worth using. I think in game development, it's a lot harder because people tend to crucify projects when they come out and they're not in the best state. And when a game is crucified, it's hard for a game to bounce back. And this is me speaking from experience of making two games that have been positively received, or more than two, but two that have been publicly positively received, and watching games that have been in similar genres that were not as polished when they released and got crucified to the point where even though their games are much better now, they still don't get the attention for it because people have that first thought in their head of what the game is. So with that, I think it's best to just keep the systems limited, but make it look good, make it function good. That way, those smaller attainable goals you have, people can say, hey, it might not be the most deep game, but it's potential. I would much rather hear that on a project. There's potential, because that means that people will be interested in seeing what happens in the future. Another thing is burnout. Burnout is something that if there was one cure for it, if everybody could just take one pill or drink one drink and it's like, hey, I'm not burnt out anymore. I think every achiever would, every high achiever, everybody who works extremely hard would do it, because I think work is addictive sometimes, especially with game development. It feels like an addiction. I'll be honest with you. It's not as strong as the other addictions, but game development, when you are in the zone and you are creating a world and creating an idea and you're thinking about the potential of if you make this project and it's really successful, or You think about the amount of passion that you could have in a fan base when you release the project. It's addictive and it's dangerous because once you get into those long periods of time where you're just working, you have to isolate yourself from family because you need to be able to focus. You have to sit, in one spot for a long time, unless you got a standing desk and you're typing, so you're not as physically active. And you don't tend to see big results quickly in game development. It's not like a lot of other art forms. And I'm trying to think of one because I said that, but I don't know what I would even compare it to. But okay, let's say a YouTube video. A YouTube video, I could make a single YouTube video right now. And if I was viral and I had virality and I could do it, me making this one video right now in my office for 2 hours I've been talking, somebody could take a short of it, which is 30 seconds. And the video could blow up. And it could blow up so big that I get over 100,000 subscribers and get to the point where now I can monetize it within like a reasonable amount of time. But the purpose of me saying that is the amount of time to make a video that could blow up and get you rich versus the amount of time it takes to build a game to see any type of results. It's an astronomical difference. Yeah, I like that word there. But it's an astronomical difference. You will really, if you're trying to build a game just off money alone, it won't sustain you. You have to actually build something that you love, that you're passionate about, that you can't stop thinking about. And with the burnout, I like force breaks. I like to take my son, he's 3, he loves pro wrestling like me. Every single day he asks me, hey daddy, can we have a quick match? I built him a wrestling ring bed, like actual wrestling ring bed with my hands, because I do stuff with my hands too. But I built him a wrestling ring bed and we have a match. It might not be a long match, it might be 15 minutes, but every day we have matches. When I eat my dinner and I eat my breakfast, I stay upstairs with my wife and my son and just chill up there with them. I like to have my heater and I have a bathroom in my office. So I take my heater to my bathroom and I just relax, don't think about anything. Even if I don't know how to use it, just to take a break. Force myself to go outside with my son and play ball because I was like, man, he want him to get outside. I want to get outside. So we take the soccer ball, we kick the soccer ball around in the front. Going to church is something where that's a positive forced break. Going back to work is a forced break, even though I'll be really tired and I still have to put work into my game. You have these forced breaks where if you have OCPD and you're really rigid and you are not looking forward to it because you had your day planned out, you're gonna be really, really productive. Look at productivity differently and use this as a way to be productive because what you are doing is actually helping yourself fight the burnout. And when you are in those moments, try to be present. Really try to just enjoy the moment. It's something I try to do with my son anytime we play, or my wife when I'm talking. If I'm there, I'm there. I'm not thinking about the game the entire time. Because if I am, then am I really taking a break? Or am I just taking a physical hiatus? I think those are different. Playing video games. Me and my son went to, my son and I went to the game store a couple days ago. And I just got some old GameCube games, just looking at the covers and game cases just for fun because I needed a break. So try to take you some breaks. Listen to stuff before you go to bed. Listen to videos that are unrelated to project development and get you some breaks in. Another thing, frugality. If you're making a game by yourself, find areas of your game that you're willing to spend more money on that you are not confident in and set a budget aside so that you can actually get stuff done for the game. So I know my weakest point, even though I've been doing art my whole life, is graphic design. I can make graphic design, but I never like it. I always say, nah, I like theirs better. I'm not good at, I can't do motion graphics really. So can't do music. I know that. Starting a project, I already know that. So I found somebody who could do music. I normally go to Fiverr, but I did have somebody from Markout, John Kernan, who did amazing custom soundtracks for Markout. Or I get, so for music, that's what I do. Or you can do it for graphic design. So I get somebody to do my logos and I'm gonna have them do my Steam page. I've been watching Chris Zawalski. How do you actually, see, I've never said his name. I've only heard it. So I need to make sure I'm saying his name properly. Chris Zukowski. There it is. So Chris Zukowski, who is like godfather of marketing for Steam games, since I'm releasing my game on Steam again. And he stresses the importance of having a really, really good Steam page. So I know that I'm definitely paying for somebody to help me build an amazing Steam page for my game. Let's go to the next one. All right, and then the last thing I had was when you just never feel like it's good enough to release. That's something where you can really get that idea of perfection out of your head by looking at where other companies or other places or other indies started. We always look at where they ended and compare ourselves to that because we know that that ultimately is our competition. What we fail to realize though is that if those companies only looked at that the entire time, then they would have missed some crucial steps in the process before getting to that point, and they might have burnt out before they got there. So I like to look at where companies started. Look at for instance, if I'm making a video game and I'm making a skateboarding game, let's say, you can either look at Skate 3, I'm trying to think of popular ones, but you can look at Skate 3 as, no, better yet, not even that, not skateboarding, we'll do cars. If you're doing a racing game, you can look at the latest Forza game, or you can go all the way back to when games were 2D and go with a game like, what's that game? It's USA, and I cannot think of the game, but the game, it's Cruise, I think it's Cruise in USA. Look at a game like that and realize that this is where they started. Although it was due to technical limitations at the time, this is where they started. If you can at least make something better than that, then hey, now you have something more attainable, but also something where you can have confidence to say, this is good enough for me to put out there if I want to put it out and at least get some feedback. You might realize, hey, I don't have to do all the extra stuff that these companies were doing because people just want something a little bit on a lower scale or whatever that might be. We had a game that's just released called Concord, which apparently they're working on that game for 8 years, and the game released last week and it was taken down the same week or following week. But whatever the case, the game was taken down. They literally started giving people refunds and discontinuing the game being sold after developers spent 8 years working on it. That to me is, you never want that. You know, nobody ever wants that. But that to me is something where I just think about planning. And I say, well, what was the actual strategy for this? To build something for 8 years, first of all, is insane, especially if you don't have market research to really say that it was going to be a worthy venture. And that's where I would love to see the market research on that. Whoever made the decision to say, this is what we're doing, I would love to see it. Because I want to know how you got to the decision. I just want to know. What made you say, yeah, let's do this for 8 years? And yeah. And was that person still with the company is the other thing. A lot of times that happens with games too, or any project, but it could start under one person's vision and then the vision gets changed because somebody else comes in. So now you're just operating. But yeah, if you're having issues with it never being good enough to release, definitely try to make sure you focus on making it something that's realistic and do not look at these big companies and what they're producing now. Start smaller. Start on a smaller scale and try to build something like that. One final thing I didn't put in here that I also took it, but I kept mentioning it, was marketing. Never been good at marketing. I think the best marketing I ever did was for Scrap City because I had rappers who had names and thousands of followers, and I had all of those rappers. I made custom art, had them posted. That was probably the best marketing. I did interviews. That was the best marketing. Now, I'm actually understanding how much of an impact marketing has on the success of the game. And I'm telling people I'm making the game, even though I haven't announced anything. I'm like, I'm making the game, I'm making the game, I'm making the game, I'm making the game. It's a similar game this, it's a similar game that. Because I want people to start getting in their head when they see me, hey, he has something that he's cooking. And then when I come and I show people what I'm working on, it won't be a surprise, like, oh, this person just came out the blue. It will actually be a thing where people are like, hey, we've been waiting to see it. Like, now show us. Like, what is it? And that's the difference between what I'm doing now and when I did markout. When I did markout, I showed every single part of the process. I would stream the entire development of markout while I was working on it. Me building 3D models, me programming stuff, me building card art, me doing audio, everything. I streamed it all. And there was nothing wrong with it, but I think that I didn't take the marketing as serious. I thought me streaming it was enough. And it did good. The game actually did pretty good by my metrics. I mean, it still rated positively. It made more money than I thought it would. Not rich money, but definitely more than I thought it would. And that was limited marketing. So now that I'm watching all these videos and connecting with different people who are experts in this craft of marketing, first thing I did was I confirmed that my genre is successful. The genre that I picked is a successful genre. We have numbers to back it up. The game is niche. That's not me passing gas to my foot on the leather. The game is niche, so it's going to target a specific person, and I can describe that person basically to the T, with a name, with a job, with a home, and everything. And I could never do that before. So now I'm taking marketing more serious. I'm putting money behind my marketing. I'm going to make videos and promote it on YouTube, on Google Ads, and pay streamers or whatever I have to do to get the game out there. I'm talking to streamers now and letting them know about the game, because I want them to say, when the game drops, I want them to be able to say, hey, yeah, we've been hearing about this game for a while. Because what it does is it builds trust with the audience right off the bat, because the audience is going to say, hey, well, this person has been in contact with these developers, so it must be some form of relationship there, where it's not just some random person here to just money snatch and take, money grab. Another thing is, I'm done. Because I can talk all day. See, this is my problem. I keep rambling because I didn't set a clear, attainable goal for this video. I had some notes and that was it. I'm done. If you are anything like me and you have issues with your mental health, and it's impacting you with game development, you've had no idea that might be the cause, make sure you just get checked out. Go see what's going on, because you will be surprised. A lot of people don't like therapy. I recommend everybody to go. The reason why is because therapy helps you unwind all the wires in your brain, and you understand how it works better, and then you can control